Joe brought up an interesting point on oil and its suctioning qualities, I guess you would call it, as he mentioned, and I thought, yeah, makes sense. That's exactly what happened. It has to do with surface tension, because people would think, well, oil is slippery. It would allow things to move more freely. However, when you talk about parts on this scale, very small parts, the surface tension between two parts that are pretty much smoothly machined, that oil is going to create drag, it's going to create friction, and it's going to basically adhere that piece right to it. And to prove the point, here is the movement, here is the ring, and it's just sitting there loosely, and I have the stem here holding it, and I can turn that upside down. That ring is stuck right to the movement. Now, that may not sound like a big deal. However, when you take into account the small amount of forces that are needed to move that ring, and the lever, the spring, what have you, any binding you have is going to create a problem. If that was totally dry, that ring would just fall right off. There's nothing holding that on. It's just sitting there. Let's put this back in the holder. So that's why that wouldn't click over. There was just too much of that surface tension. Is that the right word for it? I should know. If we take this off, I could lift up that movement just by lifting on the ring. I'm just lifting on the ring and I can move that. That's how much surface tension that oil is creating. There, finally broke loose because of the weight of the base there. So let's do this. We're going to take that off. Let's wipe that down real quick. I'm not going to do a thorough cleaning. We're just going to wipe it off. Let's wipe it off with something we have laying around. Doesn't have to be perfectly dry, although probably should be. And then we're going to take the movement and we're going to wipe off the oil that was on that landing. Hopefully this will prove my point that a dry surface is actually better than a wet surface. And when I mean wet with oil, wet with a lubricant, any kind of liquid actually would cause that adhesion. Let's try it. So here we go. Our ring is back on. I wiped everything down. I'm going to pick it up by the stem and let it rotate around. And it falls right off. Just like that. So the dry parts actually work better because of that oil and its surface tension not holding on to it. That's exactly what it was. Joe, you said it. It's like a suction. It's a clinginess of the oil, the viscosity. The more viscosity it has, the more it would cling. Water, maybe not so much because of its viscosity. But if you look at this, after we wipe it clean, it falls right off. So maybe this will explain some things to people who may not understand surface tension and why a lubricant is actually not good on that part. So hopefully that makes some sense.